Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going on a builder's journey, deep inside generative AI. We're going to move past all the hype and really get our hands dirty to understand how these things are actually built.
So, how does a machine really learn to write a poem, or reason through a problem, or create a brand new image? Well, today we're going to pop the hood on generative AI. We're going to look at the blueprint, the training process, the ways we talk to it, and, maybe most importantly, the safety checks that make it reliable.
All right, first up, the AI blueprint. You know, every great project starts with a plan, a schematic. And for Gen AI, that means we need to get a handle on what it is and what it isn't.
Okay, so first things first, it's really crucial to know that there are two main flavors of AI. You've got your discriminative AI, which is basically a sorter. It looks at data and puts it in a box. You know, is this email spam? Or is that a cat in the photo? But generative AI, that's a whole different ballgame. It's not a sorter, it's a creator. It doesn't just label things, it actually makes new stuff from scratch.
So what's the engine driving this creative powerhouse? Well, it's something called the transformer architecture. See, older models used to read sentences one word at a time, kind of like reading through a straw, and they'd often forget the beginning of the sentence by the time they got to the end. But transformers? They changed everything. They look at the entire sentence all at once, using this incredible mechanism called self-attention to figure out how every single word relates to every other word.
And that right there is the absolute game changer. This ability to see the whole picture, to understand how the word "it" at the end of a paragraph refers to the dog mentioned way back at the start. That's the magic. It's what allows these models to create text that sounds so natural and stays on topic over really long conversations.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint. Now, let's head over to the training ground. How does this thing actually go from a blank slate, knowing absolutely nothing, to being able to help you write an email or even code an application?
Well, it's basically a four-stage education. Think of it like this. First, in pre-training, it's like a baby learning the raw patterns of language by reading, well, a huge chunk of the internet. Then, it goes to college for fine-tuning, where it becomes an expert in one specific subject. After that, instruction tuning is like its first job, where it learns to actually follow directions. And finally, you have the most critical step, RLHF. That's where it learns to be a good partner to humans.
This is where we, the humans, actually step in and become the teachers. We literally rank the AI's answers. We give it a thumbs up for a good response and a thumbs down for a bad one. This feedback loop is what nudges the AI to become not just clever, but genuinely helpful, harmless, and aligned with what we actually want.
And here's why all this really matters. AI isn't some black box or some magical force. It's a product of very deliberate choices. The data we feed it, the way we train it, the feedback we give it. Realizing this means we understand that we're the ones in the driver's seat. We're the architects. And that comes with a ton of power, but also a ton of responsibility.
Okay, so our model is trained and ready to go. Let's head into the workshop. We've got this incredible new tool, but like any advanced tool, you gotta learn how to use it right. You have to learn how to talk to it.
And that talking has a name. It's called prompting. And let me tell you, it's so much more than just typing a question into a box. It's really an art form. The quality of what you get out of an AI is almost entirely dependent on the quality of the instructions you put in. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Now, there are a few key techniques here. For simple stuff, you can use a zero-shot prompt. Just tell it what to do. But if you need a specific style, you use few-shot prompting, where you give it a couple of examples to copy. And for the really tricky, complex problems, there's my favorite, chain of thought. You literally tell the AI, okay, think this through step by step, and you'd be amazed how much that improves its reasoning.
And here's a pro tip for you, role prompting. This is an absolute game changer. It's like casting the AI in a play. You tell it, you are an expert copywriter, or you are a senior software engineer. By giving it a persona, you instantly frame its entire world. It uses the right lingo, the right tone, and the responses become so much more valuable. So we have this incredibly powerful tool, and now we know how to talk to it. But before we let it loose on the world, we have to do our due diligence. We have to run some serious safety checks, because a tool this powerful without guardrails, well, that can be a recipe for disaster.
The single biggest risk we have to manage is something called hallucination. This is a weird one. It's when the AI, trying its best to be helpful, just makes stuff up. And the scary part is, because it's so fluent, it presents these fabrications with total, unwavering confidence. It sounds completely plausible, even when it's totally wrong.
So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? How in the world do we ground this thing in reality? How do we stop it from just inventing facts out of thin air? Honestly, this is one of the biggest challenges AI developers are tackling right now.
And the best answer we have so far is a brilliant process called retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG for short. Think of it like this. Instead of letting the AI answer from its massive, sometimes messy memory, we make it do its homework first. When you ask a question, the system retrieves facts from a trusted source, adds them to your prompt, and then tells the AI, okay, now generate your answer using only these facts. It's a way of forcing it to show its work, and it dramatically cuts down on hallucinations.
But it doesn't stop with RAG. Building AI we can actually trust means doing a whole lot more. It means actively hunting for and rooting out biases, deliberately trying to break the system to find its weak spots, and this is a big one, always keeping a human in the loop for important decisions. We also need transparency, things like model cards, which are basically nutrition labels for AI, telling you exactly what's inside and what it's good for.
The big takeaway here is that trust isn't just something you hope for. It's not an accident. It's something you have to deliberately engineer into the system, right from the very beginning. The only way this technology works for us in the long run is if we are absolutely committed to building these guardrails. And that brings our builder's journey to a close. We've seen the blueprint, watched the training, learned the tools, and installed the safety features. There's no doubt that AI is one of the most powerful tools our species has ever created. So the question isn't really, how does it work anymore? The real question is for us, what are we going to build with it? Thanks for watching.